Hello. Okay, so I just wanted to talk about right to freedom of religion, which is kind of interesting. And I've been doing a little bit of research on exactly what it is and how it really correlates with, I think, a lot of things that are going on right now. And I just wanted to speak it out because it made me feel a lot better about certain things. And so this says that the right to religion or religious freedom is the fundamental human right to freedom of belief, conscious, and practice of one's chosen religion or no religion at all. And it's protected by international law and constitutional amendments like the US First Amendment. So I'm not going to read all of this, but what I found super interesting was that it also covers things like, hold on. It says that religious freedom is more than just freedom to worship. It protects people's right to live, speak, and act according to their beliefs peacefully and publicly. So I just want to say that again because this is the freedom in the United States of America to live, speak, and act according to your beliefs peacefully and publicly. So that is freedom of religion. It's not just like you're practicing one religion, it's freedom to believe in what you believe in, which is so cool. And I think that there's so much going on right now, and there's so many people out there that are using fear, right, to like control and manipulate um, how they want things to be or to look right or whatever. So let me just look something up. Using fear to control. Okay, so using fear to control is a powerful tactic that manipulates individuals or groups by exploiting their innate survival instincts. This practice can be seen in abusive relationships, politics, and marketing. Bypasses rational thought by triggering the primal fight or flight response to make people compliant. Over time, fear based control erodes trust, increases anxiety, and stifles critical thinking. Um, so I just want to say this because, like, if you can see what the literally the government created, not this government, but two governments ago or three governments ago, that they created. And here's okay. So they created this is tactics for using fear to control you. Okay. Those who use fear to control employ a range of tactics from overt threats to subtle psychological manipulation, creating a perceived threat. So, manipulators may invent or exaggerate a threat to make people anxious, then present themselves as the only source of safety. This is using fear to control. This is abusive. And, I also want to say that terrorists also use extreme fear to control and to make people silent and to, all these things. But we have to remember our rights in the United States, for one. And for two, I think being able to see what is truly abusive manipulation and control. And when you look at, I mean, honestly, like when I think about what they, started creating this threat about Donald Trump, how many years ago? 10, 12 years ago, about him being like involved with Russia, in ties with Russia. And what happened? That created a perceived threat. So they may invent or exaggerate a threat to make people anxious, then present themselves as the only source of safety. Hello. Also, using fear to control. This is a tactic. It is propaganda through repetition. In political and social contexts, repeating specific phrases and warnings, even if false, perpetuates fear and solidifies falsehoods in the public consciousness. Okay, so you guys got to really get this, because I'm just so disgusted with everything. So, all of this stuff for years, they were creating this to make Donald Trump seem like a threat, right? That he was involved with Russia. He was colluding with Russia. Well, what is Russia to the United States, right? That's a threat, right? And so all of a sudden you believe that he is a bad guy or a threat. Well, they did this for years and years and years. And here's how you know if it was all created to get you to hate this person, is because years later, when they finally went through all this investigating, it was absolutely 100% false. So now you don't hear that. You can't hear that. You are so warped by this propaganda machine of your nervous system, where you have to fight, 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 fight. We have to stand up against this threat to democracy and all this stuff. And I wasn't even going to go into this because this was more about something else, but now it's just like making sense when I'm looking up using fear to control. And these are the tactics that people will use that are absolutely abusive. And that is, one is propaganda through repetition. So it is repeating specific phrases and warnings to make you, even if they're false, which perpetuates that fear in you, that solidifies these falsehoods in the public consciousness. Okay. So here's one of the things that is an extreme negative effect of this type of control, right? I mean, it says, I'm on Google, just look up, I was looking up using fear to control, okay? It literally encourages rebellion. It also creates social division. So what can we do? Okay. I just want to say, it's just so, when you realize that you have been completely used by a certain thing, entity, person that has used you as this fear. They've used fear to control you and get you to believe these things based on your fight or flight nervous system. Now, once you absolutely believe it, you can't hear the actual truth anymore. It doesn't matter. Like this whole thing with Charlie Kirk, you guys, the propaganda that was repeated over and over by the same people without any factual basis was that he was a white supremacist, that he was racist, that he was a bigot, that he was spewing hatred. Okay. Everyone said the exact same thing. But here's the thing that I said. Okay, we have freedom in this country, and freedom of speech is not absolute, meaning you cannot defame someone publicly. So defamation is when you are speaking bad about someone by telling lies, like known lies. So how do we know that everything that was said was absolute lies? Well, he had never been charged with any complaints of any of those serious crimes. This is just an example, okay? So you got to get this. Like everyone's like, oh, freedom of speech, freedom of speech. But yet, freedom of speech is not absolute. So defamation is not covered under freedom of speech. And public businesses can absolutely hold people accountable if they do not like what people are saying or if it doesn't represent their company well. They have every right to do that. That is not freedom of speech. So private companies can do that. This is the government cannot infringe on your freedoms. However, it doesn't protect defamation. So Charlie Kirk, to my knowledge, was never taken to court for being racially discriminatory against anyone, for being a white supremacist, which would be racial discrimination, any sort of racism, discrimination, anything like that. And we have laws in this country to protect against that. And so if he hasn't been convicted of anything and you don't have receipts, then it's just this, what did we say? Using fear to control, right? He spoke so much hatred, propaganda through repetition, which is literally repeating the same thing over and over and over again to make you believe that this person was a bad person, creating a perceived threat. So literally, he's made to look like a threat by somehow oppressing you in some way, shape, or form, which he has no way to oppress you in any way, shape, or form. This is like the sadness of the whole fallout from this, is that we have to get back to understanding our constitutional rights so that we are no longer being led by this propaganda machine. And it's really sad because I had no idea that Obama had repealed a law that prevented the media from spewing propaganda and lies. That's crazy to me. That should absolutely be implemented in this country. And the sheer fact that he repealed it is just insane, which is even crazier because as soon as he repealed it, that's when his whole team got together and started coming up with this Russia hoax. So the media should absolutely not be allowed to completely repeat lies over and over and over and over again. Anyway, because it literally, like, once you now know that you have been abused, now you can go, oh, uh-oh. Like, because our minds, like, literally, like, it's only through repetition from years and years. And then all of a sudden you'll be like, I don't like this person because I've been like hearing it over and over and over again. It's mind control through abuse. So anyway, the point is, okay, that you have the right to your beliefs and no one can take that from you. You have the right to your religious freedom. You have the right to speak on your beliefs, your conscience, and practice your own religion, and nobody can stop you. And I say this because, again, I want to repeat how abused that I was from a situation that happened where someone very close to me told me that my love of spirituality, my love of tarot cards, my love of connecting to God and um, through all different means was of the devil, was evil. Now, that's not against the law, even though it did infringe upon my freedoms. But what happened was they used fear to make me believe that it was a perceived threat. Um, I literally was completely confused and had no idea what was going on. And what I want to say is that these tactics are extremely harmful. The tactics of manipulation and creating a false threat, it like I don't care what you believe, that's absolutely fine. You can have your beliefs, but the moment that you use extreme fear to try to change someone else's beliefs, that is abusive. So, what do you think? Like, I literally was told that what I loved so much was evil, was of the devil, and, all this stuff. And I completely stayed away from it because I was so afraid that maybe what he was telling me was true. And because of the gaslighting, I began to doubt my own core beliefs, my own trust in myself. I began to doubt my perception of what I knew, like, felt really amazing for me. And so that caused me to have a mental health crisis. And I just want to say this because I know so many people do this, and it's wrong. It's abusive. So if you have someone who is telling you exactly that, that is an abusive tactic that people use to manipulate and control because maybe they're extremely afraid of you connecting to spirits, connecting to God. That's fine. They can say that. But you have to know in your own heart that you have the right to freedom of your own beliefs. Okay. And you have the right to freedom of your own consciousness. And when I finally started studying the Bible, which I'm so glad I did that, I flew right into being with a pastor and studying the Bible. And I'm so glad I did that because it showed me what truly Jesus was about. And it was never about that. Like, it had nothing to do with, telling someone else that what they believe in is bad or evil or of the devil. Like, it was never about that. And so, like, I was like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. So I'm really glad because it did give me that spiritual foundation to understand exactly what Jesus was about. And it was truly what Charlie Kirk says, and that is to love and accept all people. You don't have to agree with their lifestyle. You don't have to agree with what they do. And you can tell them that that's not what you believe in, but you still have the right to hold your own beliefs. So, I just want to um, say that, like, you may feel that you're oppressed. And I will tell you that that comes from an abusive relationship. Whoever is using the fear to control what you believe is infringing upon your rights to freedom of your own beliefs, freedom of religion. And I firmly believe that that is the Obama administration started putting this stuff out there, and the media took off with it, and it has continued to grow and grow and grow. And unfortunately, it is absolute propaganda. It is lies to control you by fear. And that's why people are so afraid right now. That's why people believe there's so much division. That's why people believe that this is such hatred and all that. And it's crazy when you look at it because, people who have the more objective mindset to this can see things with a critical mind, and they'll go do their own research and go, wait a minute, that doesn't even connect. Like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, what they say to what's actually going on does not make sense. And so you can completely eliminate these lies, but it's hard if you are constantly being fed the same repetitive thing over and over again. And so, I firmly believe that it has nothing to do anymore with like left and right. It is about your freedoms, knowing you're being grounded in these freedoms, doing some research to make sure that you're not being fed, right, by this machine. And also, like, accepting that this stuff does happen to people. And it's just really sad when you have to use manipulation and control to try to harm other people. That means that you probably believe that's the only way that you can feel okay, feel secure. And unfortunately, that's not true. That means that you have severe insecurities and are really, need to seek some mental help to get on your own solid ground and solid footing of being able to trust God within you, right? And like, you're not oppressed. And if you feel like you are, then there's some sort of abuse or manipulation tactics that have been literally employed over you, and it is not your fault. It is not your fault. Okay. This is their fault. They know what they're doing. It is extremely abusive, manipulative, and it is not okay. But it's not your fault. And so, like, you know, I know how that feels. And when you kind of wake up out of it and you start to realize where all the manipulation and control comes from, they're trying to take something from you that they don't have. Like, for me, with my stepmom, it was this worthiness, or like extreme jealousy for, I'm not sure, being more independent, maybe being more emotional, like sensitive emotionally, um, having literal like miracles occur in my life. Like, I don't exactly know what it is, but people are afraid of the unknown. And I absolutely represent the unknown. Like, I'm kind of crazy where I will throw all my stuff in a car, take off, and trust God on an adventure. And amazing things happen to me on these adventures. And I get so fired up to share like what God does for me. And a lot of people don't like that. And they want to silence that sort of light. And it happened for a minute, but not anymore. You can't silence the light anymore. And what that means is that I really love to open and grow my consciousness in ways that go beyond boundaries. And that can be very scary to some people, to show that God truly can do the impossible, to people who believe that there are limits, um, to God's love, meaning right and wrong, good and evil, judgment, which there is that. However, um, it's about growing through that and experiencing things that you wouldn't believe would be available to you. And I love doing that. And I love sharing that because I just want everyone to know that you're not oppressed and you absolutely have the freedom to believe what you want. And when you have that freedom and you're able to let go of these limits, then you are truly limitless in God and allowing God to create the impossible. Anyway, some people didn't like that. And that caused probably a lot of fear in some people. And that's okay. But abuse is never okay. And so I just hope that you can open and expand your consciousness, to realize that if you do feel that sort of like oppression, you really feel like you are oppressed, then there is some sort of manipulation, gaslighting. You're paying attention to too much news media that is constantly saying the same thing over and over and over and over. And it's like, what? Oh, all right. So, I really want to describe more about this because I think it's so important because I've known many people that this has happened to. And even as like strong-willed as I thought these people were, including myself, they all fell to this fear tactic. And yeah, you just become the or like the arm of the abuse. You literally become like the tool that is used over and over to fight their battles. So it's just sad. But once you know that, that you are not anyone's like tool to fight someone's battle anymore, now you're free. So I hope that helps, and I'll just keep on bringing some. I like looking at the law a lot because it shows the truth of the law And that can really help us to ground into our freedoms right now, so that we are not lost in this like propaganda wheel or used by someone to fight their hate towards someone. Like, that's completely insanity to me. But it happens. And like I said, it's not your fault. Abuse is absolutely never your fault. The abuser is the one who holds the fault, period. All right. Have a good night. Bye.